Dark planet's name is Planet X, a mysterious part of our solar system. NASA has recognized the probability of its existence in 1982.
Planet X will fly around the Earth so close that the consequences for the Earth and for all humans would be catastrophic. Because Planet X is much larger than Earth, the gravitational field of Planet X will be much stronger than the Earth's gravitational field, devastating the effect of the field of Planet X. It is approaching the Earth from 2012. It will change the axis of our planet and shift the poles of our Earth. Global cooling, new ice age, and world floodings will lead to extinction to all species on the Earth's surface. 2/3 of the world population, or almost all, will die.
We are forbidden to talk about the existence of this unknown Planet X or Nibiru. Remember the name of this planet because it is approaching our planet. In 1972, Joseph Brady of University of California discovered that some unknown planet causes gravitational disturbance of the orbit of Halley's Comet. Planet X is 5 times more massive than the Earth. This information was quickly closed down, referring to the error of the research apparatus. Long experienced employees of NASA suppressed or hide the existence of Planet X. All the information about Planet X are severely protected and not permitted to be publicized. Repeat of a worldwide flooding. The rescue team will only be drowned themselves. Information about Planet X are now concealed. There is no program, not even one documentary film produced by NASA to reveal their research about Planet X. It makes no sense for them to be silent about Planet X and hide away their researches about such giant red planet rise above the horizon of the Earth. 2012 Planet X was seen by naked eyes all over the world, especially from the directions of the southern hemisphere, Antarctica.
It is a celestial body larger than the size of the Earth and 5 times. The strength of its gravity is so powerful that will even change and tilt the axis of our planet Earth. And it will cause polar shift, causing magnetic shift to the poles. And then our planet would collapse unprecedentedly, and lead to powerful floodings, earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, and tornadoes of unprecedented scale. In 1978, American scientists stated that in our solar system, there are not only 9 planets as officially accepted by worldwide, but in fact, there are 10 planets. Planet X moves in space at an incredibly elongated orbit, and it comes to the Earth approximately every 3,600 years. They are unable to capture Planet X in the outer space. However, in the early 1980s, after lengthy mathematical calculations and the construction of new computer models, the existence of this giant Planet X has been proven.
In 1982, NASA agreed that there is a large planet, which they named it Planet X or Nibiru.
In 2005, American astrophysicists announced that is approximately from the distance of 1 light year of the Earth, there is a huge cosmic object. A giant planet exists. This giant Planet X is approaching our planet Earth at an enormous speed. Planet X is so very dark that with the optical telescopes and other instruments in 2005 are unable to capture it. The visual records of Planet X were only provided until 2007 by NASA, when the new heavy-duty infrared telescope was launched into the orbit. What the U.S. astronomers see in the photographs made telescope for a long time threw them into a real shock. In the black void of outer space, we clearly see the outlines of a huge planet. Undoubtedly, this is Planet X. They also name it Nibiru.
And in the coming years, this Planet X will fly at a very close distance to our planet Earth, which is gonna be only several hundred kilometers from us. Being so close to our planet Earth, Planet X could easily disrupt the atmosphere of the Earth, causing unprecedented cyclopean tsunamis, earthquakes and a new worldwide deluge. The scientists have also found that Planet X has already destroyed another planet in the past. Many years ago in the solar system, there is a planet named Phaethon existed between Mars and Jupiter. The fragments of Phaethon is now in solar system as asteroid belt. The belt of asteroids is an ancient fragments of the planet Phaethon. Planet X encountered with the Phaethon as it once again passed through the solar system. After sun blow of this giant Planet X, the planet Phaethon shattered into pieces. In Slavic Vedas, Phaeton is called like Dea, which means this planet destroyed Draco, reptiles and Unaki. According to US scientists, the government simply conceal the truth from humanity, avoiding causing panic to the world.
Planet X can bring considerable damage and even casualty to all inhabitants on the Earth. Representatives from all intelligence, they have information of Planet X in hand.
The Voyager 2 spacecraft tweeted from outer space. Due to government shutdown, we will not be posting or responding from this account. Farewell, humans. Sort it out yourselves. And so worried is the Obama administration about sorting this out that it decided to control the message. The order has come down from on high that no U.S. ambassador can explain or speak publicly about this to a quizzical world. And so it's up to us, and we'll try our best.
Well, hello friends, this is David Vos, and it is December the 10th, 2013. How is everybody doing today? Friends, if you look on your screen, you'll see where I've got Venus shown there, and below that you'll see Ison. Now, that doesn't mean a lot to people. But now look at it. It looks like they're both just right there together. Actually, it's not. Ison is about 2 million miles from the sun at this point. It travels 7 million miles an hour or a day, and it was just a few hours from perihelion from going around the sun. So it was actually streaking towards the sun at this moment, and about anywhere from 3 million to a few 100,000 miles from the sun at that point, but less than 2 million. Now here's Venus. All right, Venus is, like I said, it looks like it's close, but Venus is actually a lot closer to our camera, to Earth. A lot closer. The orbit of Venus around the sun is about 67 million miles. The Earth actually is about 93 million miles away from the sun. So it goes the Earth, and then Venus, and then Mercury. This comet is at the sun. Venus is 67 million miles away from the sun. So now, Venus is much closer and would look much bigger to our camera. Normally, anything that is that far away from Earth, if it was just like NASA had told us, oh, maybe a mile and a half wide, you wouldn't be able to see it. This thing is huge. So, yeah, NASA has been lying to us, friends. Let's watch this thing as it's going towards the sun. Now imagine the sun is not the blue area, the dark blue circle. It's that little round white spot in the middle. Now this thing, perihelion, goes around, comes out the other side. There's Comet Ison. Now the center of that white, bright spot that's Ison is probably about a fourth of the size of the sun. That sun, if you were to put Earth somewhere in that picture, you would not be able to see Earth at all. It would be smaller than the cursor. Okay, now that circle that's around the cursor is about the size of our sun. And when you put that up there, next to Comet Ison, you can see that the Comet Ison is probably the size of a small sun, or at least the size of like larger than Jupiter. Because if you put Jupiter on this picture, you would barely be able to see it. The sun is many times larger than Jupiter. And that comet is practically engulfing the entire size of the sun there. Now, I'm not saying it's as large as the sun, because a lot of that is reflection. And if you look at the tail at the very end and see how far it is from one end of the tail to the other, that tail is so many millions of miles wide that it's just unbelievable. And the reason that there's two tails rather than one, this is baffling science. The reason is, friends, this thing has 25, 30, 35 different objects in the core. This isn't just one piece. The largest of these pieces is bigger than the Earth. The other, I don't know how big, but it's huge. It could be bigger than Jupiter. The other pieces that are either orbiting this chunk or whatever they're doing together there, many of these pieces are the size of Earth, Venus, the Moon. There's 25 to 35 pieces that people have counted, all in this little orbiting mass going around the sun right now. NASA has been hiding this. We haven't heard a peep out of them. And for 12 hours yesterday, they shut their entire, they cut the video so we couldn't see what was happening. Friends, there's something going on here. This is a huge piece. Look at the size of the V. The comet with its tail surpasses the size of our sun. The core, or the nucleus, now watch it, look how bright and big that thing is. The entire white area, or the nucleus, is not just one chunk. I understand that. We all can understand that. But it is glowing because it is the atmosphere around quite a few hunks and pieces, many of which are planet size. I don't know what this thing is, friends, but it's huge. And it is coming our way. No matter what anybody is telling you, it is coming in our direction. And this tail, which is millions of miles long, will go through the Earth's atmosphere. Now look at this. You see that? Now go back. When you see this next picture, you're going to see the Earth, the size of the Earth. Now, I'll be honest. I don't know how far the Earth is away from the camera at this point. But I think it's a whole lot closer than that comet ISON is. Because we're near, our cameras are near the Earth. And that's how big the Earth is in that picture, in that shot. But the ISON, which is 90 miles, a million miles away, is almost as big as Earth there. Now, you can't even see the moon in this at all. And they were saying that ISON was only 1 mile or 1.5 miles wide. The moon is like thousands of miles, a couple of thousand miles wide, 2,100 miles. And you can't see it in this picture. And it is really close to the camera, not 90 million miles away like this comet is. And this comet, 90 million miles away, is being shown to be at least the size of Jupiter. And that's my opinion. I'm just an observer. I certainly am not a scientist. I'm not an astronomer. So I cannot say for any certainty how big this thing is. All I can do is show you the pictures. Watch this thing. That tail is literally millions and hundreds of millions of miles long. Nothing the size of a mile-wide rock could make a tail that long. Most of the time when you see any kind of comets going into the sun, they are just little points that you can barely even see. And these are huge comets in past history that we've watched go flying into the sun and disappear. And these things are always just really small. You can't see them. When you look at this thing come around and you see how large that is, there just isn't any way on this Earth that thing is 1 mile wide. That thing could be a planetary system. I don't know what that thing is. A planet with its moons? A large planet with its moons. I did a video a while back where some people were saying that it could be even a dwarf sun. A lot of people laughed at that. They thought that was ridiculous. NASA had debunked that, months ago. And yet, here we are, December the 10th. That thing's hurling towards us quickly. And it becomes apparent to me that it's so much bigger than they are saying. You have to ask the question, why are they lying about this thing? Why are they not giving us some information? Friends, this thing is not going to hit the Earth. The odds of that would be pretty low. It isn't expected to even hit the Earth. It's going to be a long ways from the Earth. But the tail is huge, and we're going to go through the tail, and there's lots of little pieces and debris. Some of the pieces in that tail could be the size of our moon. So anyway, friends, I just want everybody to be aware that NASA's lying about this, and that we just need to be aware of it. There's nothing to be afraid of. The Bible says in the book of Revelation that a star will fall to the earth in the latter days, and it mentions a piece of something the size of a mountain that's thrown into the seas, and a third of the sea dies. And that sounds really scary. As Christians, we know that we are going to go through a great tribulation. I don't know if this comet is going to do the things that the book of Revelation is talking about and usher in the time of the Great Tribulation, or whether there's another comet that's coming after this one sometime in the future. We know the time is short. But as Christians, we just need to take refuge in the Lord, and before anything occurs that would be frightening, we know that we have our Lord to take refuge in. We're not going to be afraid. There's no fear in our hearts. God will take care of all of us and will see us through these times. So have no fear, friends. This is David Bose, and you guys have a wonderful day and a wonderful Christmas.
Have a shot in my mouth, please.
There are increasing indications that Planet X, also known as Nibiru, is moving in a precise direction towards planet Earth. So what does this suggest for those of us who dwell on this planet? Is there actually a biblical link that correlates with the end times as we know it? Many of you believe that NASA and other government bodies, such as the Pentagon and the CIA, are aware of its approach. Your belief carries considerable weight, considering the recent publication of scientific studies claiming that there is proof of an unnamed mysterious planet lurking beyond Pluto. The claim was determined by observations of gravitational influences on a group of celestial bodies called the extreme trans-Neptunian objects, which are orbiting our Sun beyond Neptune. The approach of the mysterious planet Nibiru is at present sending waves of charged plasmatic energy particles through our solar system. The flow of energy will finally affect the core flows of the Earth and result in catastrophic changes in Earth's climate, which is without a doubt occurring on an escalated scale. Planet Earth has been feeling the effects of this inbound planet or system of planets since 1996, with records showing a troublesome increase in seismic and volcanic activity, extreme weather patterns, and catastrophic disasters. U.S. and Russian governments are aware of its approach, as is the Vatican hierarchy, which is keeping a watchful eye on the heavens with their sophisticated telescope perched high in the mountains of Arizona. In the meantime, the public is being kept in the dark regarding this approaching apocalypse. The consensus by many is that such an event would annihilate 2/3 of the world's population, while 2/3 of those who survive the initial impact will perish over time due to starvation and exposure to the elements. The question that persists with respect to Planet X is whether this mysterious planet that scientists now claim exists beyond Pluto is the same planet that is believed to have wiped out much of humanity thousands of years ago. There is, however, more to the story than what meets the eye. Based on the research study known as extreme trans-Neptunian objects and the quasi mechanism signaling the presence of trans-Plutonian planets, posted in 2014 in the Journal Monthly Notices of the Royal Astronomical Society letters, there are at least 2 planets, part of our solar system, larger than Earth, lurking out there beyond Pluto, and whose existence can be noticed through their gravitational influences. So it is fair to say that NASA understands that these planetary objects are a serious threat to our civilization. It is widely perceived that researchers had proposed that the so-called Planet X was at least 10 times as large as Earth and was most likely situated at a distance of 250 astronomical units from our Sun, with an orbit of 10 to 20,000 years. There is an understanding that an approaching large body or a star system of planets and moons can trigger considerable differences in magnetic activity, and recent data from our magnetosphere indicates that this is what is now taking place. There were even suggestions that Google Sky had revealed an area in space that had been censored by NASA, showing the winged globe moving through our solar system. So are these subtle warnings an earnest attempt to inform us that an apocalyptic situation is at hand, which is coming from out of this world, something previously unknown to humanity, but which have memories in our subconscious from past lives and records kept over the ages? If we consider the ancient era of Atlantis and Lemuria and what happened to these civilizations, is it any wonder that NASA would redact the location of this incoming body on Google Sky or in their own imagery? Every week, NASA appears to have learned something new that was unimaginable, and yet they want us to imagine that Planet X Nibiru is unreal. As you can envision, the gravitational consequences of a sizable planet moving close to the inner solar system would spell huge problems for planet Earth. Not only are we witnessing climate extremes and a shifting of the Earth, but we are now bearing witness to the very real observations that the four seasons, as we have known them, are now blending. So with all of this in mind, we can now ascertain why certain governments are taking steps to protect their own interests as they prepare for the arrival and the aftermath of this large planetary body or system of planets moving through our solar system. Here is some news that has been widely reported, but which some of you may not be aware of. Russia recently completed building or updating some 5,000 shelters in Moscow. They actually have been quite open about what they are doing, but they haven't specifically stated the actual reason for constructing or updating these shelters. But we do know that they have some facilities that can accommodate up to 100,000 people. The United States is estimated to have over 150 deep underground military bases. Coincidentally, a huge military underground city exists below the Denver airport. Now, these are entire underground cities that have been under construction since the 1980s. But this is a need-to-know classification that is underway and is never published in advance for fear of destabilizing the economy. If you do any research of this topic, you are bound to run into various forms of disinformation. Now, some of it intentional, but much of it produced by uneducated individuals within the public. Until the discovery of Planet X, astronomers had regarded the writings of the ancient Sumerians about this object as legend. When Planet X was discovered in 1983, they suddenly learned that the Sumerians were not the primitive people they had been made out to be by intellectuals of today. Have you ever wondered what the real purpose of the Hubble Space Telescope was intended for? It was not to explore the universe and the solar system, as some have suggested. Rather, the reason for constructing this multi-billion-dollar telescope and then placing it in orbit was for the purpose of observing the inbound Planet X. A June 6th interview with a Hubble insider states this fact as to the Hubble's purpose. He watched this mysterious body through the Hubble telescope and stated that this thing looked as if it was nearby. And the Hubble got cut off, and they encrypted it, and that was the end of any transmission. So let's listen to this interview.
Back in the 1950s, most people aren't aware of it, but there was a scientific storm in America all through the late 50s about this thing out there in space because the astronomers were all watching it, and that was back when they weren't afraid to talk about it. It was in the science magazines. I mean, I had a subscription to, like, Popular Science, and hell, it was on the front cover of the magazine one day in, like, 1961. And I was really excited when I saw it because here's this giant red planet on the horizon of the California coast and a humongous tidal wave coming in towards the coast. And having grew up in the mountains of the Sierras, and this thing in the magazine, it said this tidal wave coming in was going to be at least 3 miles high. And I went in and showed it to everybody in the house, and they laughed, and they said, look, It says right here, there's nothing to worry about. It won't be here for another 50 years. Hey, guess what? That 50 years has came and gone. And this baby's out there in the sky. They've been watching it. I watched it. And I can tell you, this thing has got so much trash coming around it. You know how we live in a solar system? We've got 9 planets and a big sun. This thing has got 7 planets and its own sun. The years as it went by and we watched it, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then finally, about 2008, we could see this thing like it was across the street. And we could see that it was a blazing hot ball of fire giving out sparkles of red iron oxide dust for thousands of miles in every direction. And you could see the planet circulating it. Now, I'll tell you one thing that I really am nervous about. I think this thing's got a planet like ours circling it. This is its own solar system. We're about to have a solar system come through the middle of our solar system. This can't be good. But unfortunately, it looks as though that's what's going to happen. We were looking at asteroids right close to this thing. There's asteroids that are floating around right near that are orbiting the main sun itself. These things appear to be about 500 miles across. This thing looks like a giant red teardrop-shaped dust cloud. And you can see, once if you're able to see it up close like we did, you can see every speck out there. Now, these CIA people that I know say that we're not going to be that close to it when it goes past us. They're saying that in order to attain breakaway speed, when it comes up around the backside of the sun, its speed will at least double, possibly more, which will put it here earlier than everybody is saying it will, and that this thing will probably be about 20 million miles from us when it crosses in front of us. And then as soon as it flips us upside down, we're going to go into its debris field. These CIA guys told me that this pole shift will probably happen from start to finish in around 28 minutes. That doesn't give you a lot of warning. When you see that thing out there in the sky, you're going to have to run as fast as you can to your underground facility, because this is going to happen so fast. Now, see, here's another thing nobody's talking about. You've got this giant iron planet that they say is 47,000 miles across, getting ready to come up past us. And when it starts to approach us, it's going to start and have real serious effects.
So is it a planet or a failed star?
It's not a failed star. You know, I saw this thing up close. It did not look like a failed star. It looked just like our sun. Right. Okay. Would you call our sun a failed star?
No. Okay. Well, you had said planet. I wasn't sure if it was like a failed star brown dwarf or a full sun. So it's a full sun?
It looks to me like a miniature sun, just like the one we have. The only difference is our sun is giving off flames and stuff, and this one's doing the same thing as it, but it's giving off this red iron oxide cloud of dust around it. And until it got close, we couldn't even tell what was in there. We could see it was hot, and it looked like it was just a dull red when we were first able to discern it through the red cloud. But as it approached, it started to become more apparent that this thing is just orange hot. Right. And it's got this enormous, and I mean enormous, at least 50 or 100,000 miles on each side of it, this red dust cloud that goes all the way around it. I know when we were watching it, as it started to make the upward swing to approach behind our sun, it was amazing. The red dust cloud settled down. Instead of being round, it started to settle down into a V, like wings, upside-down wings. Right. And I thought, boy, I wonder if that's where the ancient Sumerians got the idea this thing had wings, because, you know, centrifugal force is a funny thing. When it comes back up around the planet, when we see it in the sky, my guess is it's going to look like it's got wings, because centrifugal force is going to be pulling the red iron oxide dust and particles out to one side. This thing's going to look like a big red dragon, exactly like all the ancient Sumerians and the Chinese and all the rest of them that had documented this thing's passing before. It didn't look like a white ball or a snow cloud or nothing. It looked like a big red iron oxide dust cloud with a superheated star in the middle of it. And, I mean, you know, and that's what we've seen. So, you know, I don't care what anybody else says. There's a possibility. There's more than one thing out there. You know, I watched it through the Hubble Space Telescope, And when this thing looked like it was across the street, the Hubble got cut off and they encrypted it, and that was the end of any transmissions we had to watch. And we know that the Hubble, in order to be in the shadow of the Earth, had to be at an angle, and so that meant it was looking downward. And this thing was coming up underneath of us, and I tell you the honest to God truth, I personally think this thing is real close to us right now. But, you know, that's just my general feeling that, you know, and I'm a pretty psychic guy. I have the feeling that this thing is right close by and that we're going to see it any time. Okay? Because, listen, they've known about this thing forever. And I mean, they've known about it forever. I mean, if I read about it in a science magazine in 1961, that tells you that, I mean, it's only 1,800 years away. How could they not be able to see it when it came around the backside of the last sun and headed this way?
Right.
You have to know they've been watching it, because if you know, Carl Sagan was showing stuff that they took with their old telescopes that was billions and billions of miles away. And this thing's only 1,800 years away. Well, and by 1930, it was only 70 years away. You know, we do estimate that this thing, let me give you a thing, maybe you can figure out your own timeline. We estimated that this thing is traveling around 3,500 miles an hour, okay?
Okay.
That was our estimate of its speed. Now, it has been picking up speed, and that's the reason why we think it's going to arrive early, because when it comes around the backside of the sun, it's got to double that speed in order to attain breakaway speed to leave the sun and not wind up orbiting it. It's never orbited the sun in the past that we know of, so that means that it's going to have to attain breakaway speed to head back out into space. Now, you look at the NASA videos, photos, and all this other crap those morons put on the internet. This thing is coming in. It's going to, as soon as it goes around the top of the sun, it's going to go back out into space.
Right.
And it's going to do this really fast. When it goes past us, it's going to go past us so fast that we'll almost have no time to get ready. That's my opinion, but, you know, just drawing it out on paper a few times and thinking about it, and I went, you know, if this thing picks up enough speed to make breakaway speed, then that means it's going to come past us. You know, this thing, according to what I was told, is that this thing is approximately 47,000 miles in diameter, you know, 4 or 5 times the size of the Earth, and it'll come past us, and we won't have a lot of warning, and we won't get to see it in the sky until it's on us. Now, I was told that the poles are not shifting at 42 miles a year. They're shifting at 42 miles a day. And the reason is because this planet is rolling over to face this thing. Now, when it goes by, it's not going to push our North Pole away. It's going to grab our southern pole with its northern pole, and it's going to be like somebody kicked this planet in the ass. That earthquake that it talks about in Revelations, when the opening of the sixth seal comes, from what I've been told, that's very accurate, because that's exactly what's going to happen. There's going to be a massive earthquake when it locks onto us. As it goes past us, we're going to follow it right upside down. The oceans are just going to be roaring from pole to pole, as you could well guess they would, because if you take a planet that's 7,000 miles across and roll it upside down in 30 minutes, you're going to have some real serious problems with wind and water. We should be preparing to expect this thing to show up any time.
So this particular insider is stating in the most revealing terms that something ominous is heading our way that NASA has known about for decades. Nibiru, aka Planet X, and referred to by the Vatican as Wormwood, has a mass that is 3 to 5 times the mass of Jupiter. Its composition is cesium, iron oxide, iron, oxygen, and ozone. And according to the interview by the Hubble Insider, it consists of 7 planets and moons that orbit it and innumerable asteroids. Its existence is known by all of the major governments of the world, and they are prepared, as I described earlier in this presentation. The object is very big, and until recently it is a red dwarf star visible only in the infrared spectrum. The agent claims that the government is monitoring the system and that in 2008 it could be seen in high detail with infrared telescopes. But the manner of observation is beginning to change. Using deductive logic, a number of independent videos are capturing its close approach now. We can speculate about its existence and whether the images and videos being published on a regular basis are genuine captures. But it doesn't change the narrative that something big is out there. Even the most reputable scientists are coming to the same conclusion that we have been warning about for many years now. That whatever is out there must be found and determined as to its impact upon the solar system and planet Earth. So it's no longer a question of whether it actually exists, but rather its actual location and how long before its absolute impact will be felt on our planet. In closing, I wanted to share with you a few troubling observations that were posted recently on Facebook. The first one is a capture from the Skycam Observatory in Deakin, Australia, showing the two-sun phenomenon. Now, the Sun's companion has been visible in this side-by-side view on all Skycam for several days now, which indicates that the Nemesis system is rising to the ecliptic, as I mentioned in the video which I published on October the 28th. So something is definitely taking place now, and it behooves us to start paying careful attention to the skies. So if any of our viewers and subscribers have anything of value, any type of information or images you care to share with us, please forward them over here for review as soon as you can. Also mentioned in this video presentation was the indication that this system would be accompanied by a long trail of debris consisting of fairly large-sized meteors and asteroids. The number of space objects that are penetrating the Earth's magnetic field has increased substantially in the past couple of years. So take a look at this incredible capture from Japan on October the 31st. And finally, if this doesn't blow you away, check out this eerie sky captured from Las Palmas, Spain on October the 26th. So as you can see, something definitely is going on that is very difficult to explain. It was in mid-August of this year, as some of you are aware, that myself and my family members and a number of friends were among the many tens of thousands who suffered the worst